Perfect. It looks like we are live now streaming on Facebook as well as in Zoom. Welcome everybody to today's very special webinar. I really like hosting our subject webinars every Wednesday because we have a chance to talk to special guests from these degree programs that students are interested in attending. This is a very unique opportunity for all of you. So if you are joining us and you're watching, take advantage of it. Very seldomly do you have the chance to talk to prospective instructors or anyone who's affiliated with these degree programs before you apply or while you apply. So please take advantage of that. As you can see, we have some extra faces here today. So first I'll introduce, if you want to just wave, our special guests. First, we have Ilka Gersemann, who is the program coordinator at the Fulda University of Applied Sciences. And second, we have Professor Dr. Ilka Heidbreder, who is professor for multi-level governance in Europe at the University of Magdeburg. So they will be individually giving some presentations, respectively, about two master's programs. So the one from Fulda today is the Intercultural Communication in European Studies Masters. And the second master's, which Professor Dr. Heidbreder will discuss, is the MA in European Studies for European Social and Cultural Policy Analysis. So before we get started, we'll say bye, or not bye, but see you later to our guest speakers. They're going to go behind the scenes and come back later. I'll introduce them shortly. But I do want to hand it over to my other colleagues here from MyGermanUniversity. So you see two other faces with me today. You probably recognize Eileen, who also hosts webinars with MyGU. And we have a more fresh team member, Paul, who you will also see hosting webinars soon. So they're going to be our moderators today, be behind the scenes answering general questions about studying in Germany. But for the specific questions about the study programs, you will have those people in charge answering them. But let me hand it over to Eileen, and she's going to say a little bit about MyGermanUniversity.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Jasmine, for the introduction, and thank you for our special guest for joining us. So, guys, today we have we have a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to give you a brief presentation about MyGermanUniversity and the services that you can find in our platform. So for those of you who don't know, MyGermanUniversity is Germany's largest database of English taught study programs. But even though we have the word university in our name, we are not a university, and we are not a scholarship foundation, and we are not an agency. So we are a startup from Hamburg that helps students to find their way, find out how they can start the process to study in Germany. And this is our website. And here we have our study finder, where you can look for a lot of programs in English in Germany. And also we have a lot of articles that more than 70 articles that you can take a look at, because there's a lot of important information here about bachelor's, master's, visa requirements, language requirements. So please make sure to enjoy and take advantage of all this content that we have put together. Besides, we host at least 2 webinars per week on different topics. Today, we have a very special case, which is a subject webinar with people from the programs. But we also have more general webinars about scholarships in Germany, how to apply, application strategies, COVID-19, visa. So here, in our website, you can register for our upcoming webinars. And this is our team. We are a very international team. Many people who work with us, like me and Jasmine and Paul, are international students in Germany. And we also have webinars in Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, and Italian every once in a while. And okay, today I don't have a lot of time, so I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Eileen. I was an international student in Germany, and I'm currently based in São Paulo. And as a former applicant to programs in Germany, I would like to tell you to really appreciate the opportunity that you have today to meet people from study programs, Frau Gersemann and Professor Dr. Eva Heidbreder. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jasmine, and Paul and I will be in the background answering all your questions in the Q&A section and sending important links in the chat. So stay tuned, and we hope we can answer all your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that introduction, Eileen. That's perfect. So the way it's going to work now, for those of you who are here in Zoom, Paul and Eileen are in the background and they're answering your questions. I see one already sitting here in the Q&A function. I will do a quick 5-minute presentation about general studies in Germany, just to give you an overview, to give you an idea of how that works quickly. And then I will introduce our first guest speaker, Frau Gersemann, or Ilka Gersemann, to introduce the program. So I'm just going to take 5 minutes. This is very general for those of you who are not as familiar with German studies and how it works. If you're wondering how I know about German studies and what makes me an expert, I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I did come to Germany 6 years ago. I was awarded a research fellowship from the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, and I did research here in Berlin at a think tank for 1.5 years, where I focused on international security, mainly cybersecurity and data protection policy. And then following my fellowship, I did a master's in international relations at the University of Bremen. And now I'm helping students take a similar path and find whether it's a language course or a research project or a study or something that they're passionate about here in Germany. So that being said, let's get started with my quick presentation. So today we do have 2 special guests. I already shared the link while Eileen was doing an intro for MyGU of the first program. So you can go ahead and take a look at that, open it, and start getting your questions ready, because they can't see all of the questions you send in the Q&A. So they can answer them as well, but we will have a Q&A session during the presentation as well. So first we'll have Ilka Gersemann, and then we'll have in the second have Professor Dr. Eva Heidbreder. Okay, so where do you find study programs is the first question I want to answer. So there's 2, I'm going to suggest or recommend 2 main places to find study programs. And something that's important for international students to know is that as an international student, you do have the opportunity to apply to German taught programs. So even though many students are looking for English taught programs, if you have stronger German skills than English skills, you're more than welcome to apply to German taught programs as well. And this platform that you see here on your screen is where you will find German taught programs. It's called Hochschulkompass, and it's the official database for the German Rectors Conference. And you can see here that they have 137 programs for European studies and 8 for global studies programs on their platform. We always recommend Hochschulkompass because they are the official platform for the German Rectors Conference when it comes to German taught programs. However, when it comes to English taught programs, there are many places where you can find some, and that's okay. The DAAD, for example, has their own database for English taught programs. That's fine too, to use the DAAD. However, I of course am going to recommend you to ours only because we have the largest and the most comprehensive platform for English taught degree programs. That's bachelor's and master's programs. If you're looking for PhD programs, I would also look at Hochschulkompass because they have some English taught PhD programs as well. So at MyGermanUniversity, on our platform, we have 143 degree programs for European studies and global studies here. 24 Bachelors, 15 are English only, and then 119 masters, and 94 of those are English only. We do have English only programs, but there are some programs that combine some English with German, and we also have those on our platform. But you can also filter out if you're looking for English only or a mix. You can filter for this using the filters here you see on the left side when you're searching for your program. So here you see our area studies, but this is referring to global and European studies programs. So you can also search by subject in our subjects page. So you just click on the subjects page and you can see a total here, 143 programs, and also sort by university or location and so on. However, even though you can do that, we urge students to look for the perfect program for them and not to focus on a city or a name. So many students say, oh, well, I have to live in Berlin, or I just want to go to Munich. And that's great. And if you find your dream study program there, then that's wonderful. But the fact of the matter is many students won't find their dream study programs in just these two cities, and you might be better fit for a program elsewhere. So make sure you don't just look at rankings or a name or a city, but also take into account the details of the study program that's the right fit for you. Something that's important for you to keep in mind while you're searching for these programs is the differences between study programs and how higher education works in Germany. So while this presentation is by no means a comprehensive representation or breakdown of the German higher education system, I want to introduce you to two very basic concepts and differences with higher education institutions in Germany. And the first is the difference between, or I want to present to you an Universität and a Fachhochschule. So the first one, an Universität or university in English, is a type of higher education institution in Germany. And here I've listed some examples that you might be familiar with. And the second one, and also for universities, there's public and private universities. So that's true also for the Fachhochschulen. And the second type, first is university. The second type is Fachhochschule or University of Applied Science. And within this realm, there's even more distinctions between the types of Fachhochschulen, as you can see here. But again, I just want to be very general and just give you an overview of this. And of course, there are also private and public universities of applied sciences. So you're thinking, okay, well, what's the big deal? Why do I need to know these? And there is no super important reason that you need to keep in mind. You just maybe need to understand what the differences are when it comes to teaching styles and learning methods. So first off, one is not better than the other. And when it comes to getting a completed certificate or degree, one is not going to get you better chances of employment or have a better degree. That's not how it works. So if you're thinking, okay, well, which one's better? Where's my degree going to be more important? What's going to get me a job? That has nothing to do with it. So get that out of your head and think instead, what type of teaching styles or learning methods am I looking for? So at a university, you're going to see more research-based programs, maybe more theory-based programs. Something important, which is on the next page, but I'll go ahead and let you know now, is that universities have the right to offer PhD programs. In German, this is called promovieren. And so this is the one distinction. However, now universities of applied sciences partner with universities to be able to offer these programs. So you won't be missing out if you attend a University of Applied Sciences. So that's the main difference, which now why you see here this X/+, because now actually these Fachhochschulen can offer the PhD programs when they're partnered with a university. But the biggest difference again is just the type of learning style you are looking for, and also generally the types of subjects. So for example, universities are probably going to focus on medicine, law, and the humanities. For example, something again more research-based, and universities of applied sciences may focus on maybe more technical programs or more practical programs that have traineeships. So that sums it up for me. So here's some study program profiles that you can see here when you're looking at programs. You'll see an overview of tuition-free prices, how long the program is, and deadlines right away when you are searching. But I'm done now. Let's hand it over to our first guest speaker. So first we're going to have Ilka Gersemann, who's the program coordinator for the Master's Program of Intercultural Communication and European Studies at the Fulda University of Applied Science. So I'll let her take it away.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thanks very much. I will try to share my screen with everybody first. Okay. So I hope you can see it. So, just a minute to start the presentation. Okay, hi everybody. I'm very pleased that I'm able to give a presentation on our master's degree program here today. As Jasmine told us earlier, we have a very international audience today, and usually from MyGermanUniversity, there are students or candidates from South America, from Asia, from North America, European countries as well, and practically all over the world. And that's really cool, I think. And so I would like to say good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to the whole world somehow, because it's you're living in a different time sphere now. So for me, it's now in the afternoon in Germany. And yeah, I'm from Fulda University of Applied Sciences, and I'm the degree program coordinator of an international master's program, which is called Intercultural Communication and European Studies. So the history behind this program is it was developed, implemented for the first time in 1999, so it's over 20 years old. It's practically a traditional program already. It was developed in the light of globalization, EU enlargement, and the increasing internationalization of different areas of society. It's a social sciences program, but it's also interdisciplinary because it combines social sciences, political sciences, communication sciences, and also legal studies. Its development and implementation was first funded by the German Academic Exchange Service, or in German called the DAAD, which you will know, and also by a European funding program, the Jean Monnet program. The program is fully accredited by the AHPGS, which is a German accreditation agency. So it has been accredited all the time, but it needs to be renewed every couple of years, and our current accreditation is valid until September 2026. So since 2016, we are also entitled to offer a PhD program, which is not partnered actually with the university. We have a single PhD program in social sciences with a focus on globalization, European integration, and interculturality. That means that many students who join our department to study intercultural communication and European studies, or another master's program, or who bring degrees, master degrees from other universities, can apply for a PhD program within our department or with our university, because it's interdepartmental, that program. So that's a little bit about the history of the program. So what are the characteristics of our program? First of all, it's an international study group. So we can admit 30 students per year from all over the world. We have a quota, actually, which means we admit 50% of the students, so 15 students actually from European countries. That means from Germany and from other EU member states. And the other 50%, the other 15 students, come from practically all over the world. We have a wide range of countries represented in the program, and usually we have about like 14 or 15 different nationalities within that one study group. So with a student cohort of 30 students, there are sometimes like 14 or 15 different nationalities represented. The program is bilingual, so it's taught in German and in English, about 50% in each language, which means that good German and English language skills are required. If you don't speak German yet, or if you're on a beginner's level only, but if you're interested in that program, we also offer prep programs at the university. So you can even start with German for beginners on beginner's level, study German intensely and apply for a master's program a year later. So that's also possible. Another special feature of the program is an internship abroad, which is compulsory for all the students. It takes place after the second semester usually, and it needs to take place outside the students' home countries. There may be exceptions, like for example, this year, due to the pandemic, we don't force the students to go abroad, neither the German students nor the international students. But under better conditions, we would encourage students to go abroad for their internship. There may be other reasons not to do it because, for example, if you have family, you have children to care for, then you don't need to go abroad, but usually people are encouraged to do that. Another feature is that we offer field trips as part of the program, and as part of European Studies seminars, you will go to Strasbourg and Brussels to visit European institutions and talk to experts from these institutions. And another special feature, which is much appreciated by the students, is the familiar atmosphere. It's very easy to get in touch with fellow students and staff at our university. As you can imagine, Fulda is not such a big city. The university is not so small. There are like 10,000 students enrolled currently. But the program in itself, it's pretty small, and our department is small. So I think this is an advantage for international students, especially that even if you come to Germany for the first time and if you don't know anybody, it's very easy to get in touch with people, to make new friends. And if you walk the campus or through town, you will always meet people you know from your seminars and from academic life on campus. So here you can see a couple of pictures from our field trips to Brussels, for example. And this is the module structure of the program. You may have wondered already what you're doing when you study intercultural communication and European studies. As you can see here, we have a structure of 4 semesters. In the first 2 semesters, they are pretty intense classroom study semesters, and you will have a focus on intercultural communication, on theories, models, as well as on fields of action. Another pillar is European studies. You will get an introduction to history and present of European society development and on European policy fields, as well as on European law. At the same time, in the first and second semester, you will learn social sciences methodology, because some people may be familiar with the methods of the social sciences, but other may not be so familiar with it. It depends on what you've studied before. And another focus is globalization and international organizations. So after the second semester, you would do your international internship, which is 10 weeks. It's a compulsory internship for 10 weeks after the second semester. It will be prepared in the first and second semester by a seminar. So you will receive help and support and counseling on how to apply, where to find internship positions, what kind of career opportunities are available, and all this. So you won't be alone. You don't need to look for this all by yourself. So there will be a guided a guided path to your internship. And after your internship in the summer, after the second semester, there will be an in-depth study semester, which starts a little later in order to give you enough time for the internship. And there will be a focus on specific topics, research topics of intercultural communication and European studies. So the fourth semester is reserved for your master thesis. So there are no classes anymore. Just if you want to take part in a colloquium or an exam seminar, you can take part in these, but you're also free to move to another place to write your master thesis. For example, if you want to do some field research somewhere else, you can do that. But it will still be supervised by professors from our department. So that's more or less the structure of the program. And you will be interested about on career opportunities as well. So I've listed here some examples on internships and also on graduate jobs our alumni receive after graduation. So as you can see, the list here, students do internships in the European Parliament, for example, in the administration or with members of the European Parliaments. They also undertake internships in the national parliaments. In Germany, that would be with members of the German Bundestag, for example. United Nations organizations, for example, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or the UNDP program or UNEP program, UNICEF program. There are different opportunities to undertake internships with these agencies. A lot of international students do their internship with their embassies, for example, with their international embassies in Berlin, or German students go to the German embassies abroad, which is also a possibility. Research institutes, universities, think tanks, NGOs, or large multinational companies like, for example, Lufthansa, Continental, etc. All these are very popular internship placements. When it comes to jobs, graduate jobs, after you've received your degree, there are different options as well. For example, our alumni go into ministries, for example, for foreign affairs, trade, education, etc. They go to embassies or are recruited by universities, multinational companies, again, consultancies, for example, for public policy. In the field of public relations, media or social media, again, NGOs and lobbying, or in global mobility management. So the requirements for our master's degree is that you have a BA degree or something equivalent before you apply, and you can have a degree in different fields. In general, it's required in social sciences, humanities, cultural sciences, or legal studies. So this could be a degree in languages, philologies, translation sciences, in social sciences, political sciences, law, cultural studies, etc. You see a list here. And also, as I said earlier, you need a good command of both languages, like English and German. One possibility is to, if neither German nor English is your native language, you need a high level in one of the languages and a little lower level in the other language. So you could have a TOEFL IBT of 79, for example, plus German level of TESTAF 3 in all areas. Or if your German is stronger, you could have a TOEFL IBT of 61, but then you need a German level of DSH2 or TESTAF 4. If one of the languages, English or German, is your native language, you will need a C1 level in the other language. So there are different possibilities to combine your language skills, and you can look it up on our website or send me an email to ask if you meet the requirements already or if you would need to improve your language skills. So what else about Fulda? Fulda is not as famous as Hamburg and Berlin or Munich, of course. You see a map of Europe and a map of Germany, where you can see that Fulda is in the eastern part of the Bundesland of Hesse, and it's located quite in the center of Germany. It's about 100 kilometers north of Frankfurt. It's pretty close actually to Frankfurt. Fulda has about 70,000 inhabitants. So it's not very big, but it's not too small. It's a lively city. And it's a very nice and picturesque and Baroque city. So the city center is really nice, actually. What you can see here is our campus. It's a campus university. It's very green and modern. It has been modernized in the last couple of years. And you see the library here, very new and modern library. And this is an evening picture of the old town of Fulda. You also have study abroad opportunities if you're interested in that. As an international student in Germany or at Fulda University, you're also entitled to take part in our study abroad opportunities to apply for a place at our partner university network, to apply for an Erasmus scholarship, for example, or to make use of our overseas partnerships. Within the ICEUS program, we would recommend the 4th semester for study abroad options. What else is there? For example, we have a new project which is funded by the German Academic Exchange Service for the next 4 years. And this project is about and will gives funding for the internationalization of studies, which means physical mobility of students and scholarships for this, but as well for online cooperation so that we can do more collaborative international online classes together with our partner universities in the US and in France and in England and elsewhere. The internationalization of research, or our PhD program, is also part of this program, and a new center for transnational governance will be founded at our department. I have included in the presentation a couple of websites you might be interested in. This is our program website, which is available in German as well as in English. And you can also see a couple of video clips from our alumni who share their experience. And if you're interested to find out more about our department and its activities, you could follow our Instagram account, and you find that address at the very bottom here. Okay, so these are my contact details. As a program coordinator, I would be your first contact person for questions about the application process, language requirements, would your degree be recognized, etc. The application deadline is actually the 31st of May for international students from outside the EU, and it will be the 15th of July for students from EU member states. You may also be interested in funding opportunities or tuition fees. There are no tuition fees actually because the university is state funded. There's just a semester fee of about 300 euros per semester, which includes a ticket for local and even regional public transport. About scholarship opportunities, that depends very much on your profile, and your background, and if you're interested in scholarship opportunities, I would also suggest that you send me an email and ask for specific programs you might be eligible for. So that was all from my side, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your presentation. Actually, I saw there are some questions, and if you even go to the answered questions, you can add an answer to them because some of them have been answered, but I saw some questions about maybe internships and some details of the program, but we can also have a chat during the Q&A, but you're welcome to go and already head over to the Q&A function in Zoom and answer them. For now, I'll introduce our second guest. So thank you so much, Frau Gersemann, for your presentation. And we'll see you shortly in the Q&A. And yeah, I would like to welcome very quickly here, for those of you who may not be as familiar with where Magdeburg is, we are going to talk to Professor Dr. Eva Heidbreder from University of Magdeburg about the study program in European Studies, European Social and Cultural Policy Analysis.
Right. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. And I'm the academic head of this program of the Master in European Studies and also of a Bachelor in European Studies. We are presenting the Master here in particular because you are able to study one part of the Master also. It's a purely English program. So if you have no German skills, there's a chance to get to Magdeburg. And I have not many pictures of Magdeburg, but if you look in the background, this sums it all up, right? You get the EU flag there, the EU flag, the German flag, and the regional flag for Sachsen-Anhalt, and here the Dome of Magdeburg, which was built by the first German emperor just before the year 1000. So it's terribly old, and Magdeburg is full of old churches, beautiful River Elbe, and I can just underpin what Gersemann said in the beginning. Looking from abroad, and same for me, when I look at countries and if I look at your names, I guess that there's many countries represented I've not been to. We know the big cities and the places that appear in the news and that. Germany has a very, say, flat hierarchy amongst universities, and you get single disciplines that are very well represented in places you've never heard of. And you have very ambitious programs in other places. And it's very hard to rank them. And some programs come up and disappear and that. So it is, we have, say, a very flat hierarchy amongst universities. And I studied at a small university in Osnabrück. And the advantage, if you come from abroad, is the closer your community, you get special treatment by professors because it's often less students. So our classes are not that big. You may be studying in small seminar settings with 15 to max 30 students. And you get to know your fellow students if you're not in a digital semester, else we're all suffering from right now. So those are the advantages. Magdeburg is not far from Berlin with public transport, if you're interested in that, but it is still a city with 300,000 inhabitants, an opera house, old parts, and so it's maybe something you've never heard of, but definitely worthwhile to check out. And I'll walk you through the program very briefly. Here we go. So that's the Masters in European Studies, and you see a little better here the dome and the flags. And as was said in the introduction, my chair is called Governance in the Multi-Level System of Europe. So you see basically the content of what we're dealing with, the European level, the state level, and the regional level. And that is also the focus of this master. You see the subtitle, Become a European Policy Shaper. You get study programs in European studies across Germany. And they're all slightly different. Why? Because these programs are all concerned with Europe, the European continent, and very much also focusing on the European Union as a polity, as a political system that is special, that has a lot of influence, that shapes politics in the 27 member states and beyond. So all these master or bachelor programs focus somehow on that, but in very different disciplinary constellations. Most cover social sciences. Some combine that with a lot of cultural studies, with languages. Some have a regional focus on Eastern Europe, on Southern Europe, whatever. And you'll find these programs all over Europe. Now, this particular master has a specific applied focus. What you are to learn in this master is how are policies being done? How do they come about? So how does a political system, in this case, the European Union, develop solutions and answers to policy problems? How do they get to citizens? So that's the content. Concretely, we have 2 focal points, and you can apply for one of the 2, not for 2. The first one is European social and economic policy analysis. That combines social sciences and economics. This European social and economic policy analysis you can study with only English prior knowledge. But there is requirements. You need to have studied in particular quantitative methods to be able to follow the economics classes. Else you're not qualified to apply for this master. The European Social and Cultural Policy Analysis program combines social sciences with cultural studies. And there you need a prior degree in social sciences or cultural studies, but you also need to have a sufficient German knowledge to be able to follow courses like in history that are only being offered in German. You find all the details on our webpage. I won't go into depth about that, or you can contact us in case of questions. Now, the main objective is to get in-depth disciplinary knowledge. It is a mainly research-driven program. So you should learn how to do a policy analysis. How does a policy come about? How is it shaped? In the economic part, what is economic policy advice, analysis, and in the cultural studies part, how does political communication work? So it all turns around about how doing policies. And therefore it has a very applied outlook. And this program therefore also has a specific focus on learning to transfer this theoretical knowledge to an applied policy analysis. How does that look like? That's what I just said, just for you to grasp it better. We have, say, baseline, the social sciences. How are your polity and society structured? And then that is the first module that you start with. You learn about the sociology of the European space and the political system. How does it work? How do we analyze it? And in the second term, we have a specific module that is called the EU policy cycle. I'm teaching that right now, where you learn really about the policy making in the EU. That is combined with economics in the one stream where you should learn how to advise, shape economic policies. We'll learn how to crunch numbers and do that, which is always very much demanded by politics. If you select the cultural studies focal point, you learn more how to communicate, shape policies in Europe. But as I said, you need to have prior German knowledge to study that stream. What are you supposed to do with that? Well, the range of jobs you can do with this program varies. It's rather big. Now, for international students, I've taught students who, for instance, you get a general input on policy analysis. So if you're interested in how policies are done, this is it has a special EU focus, but that is a baseline knowledge you get in any case. So for anybody who's interested in getting into any kind of policy advice, be it for a company, for an NGO, or analyzing policies for media, or a foundation on that, this is a program that prepares you for those kinds of jobs. also to go into international organizations or the EU and that. So like many study programs at universities, we're not preparing for a specific job, but we give you qualifications for a range of jobs. The qualification you should get generally is skills to systematically analyze and critically ask questions about how processes come about, and to also train how to apply that. Instead of giving you this table with the different colors, I give you here the list of the different modules. The light blue is the variant if you study the economics focus. The purple lines are the alternative if you concentrate on the cultural studies. So the black lines are the course, the modules everybody takes. The European political and social systems, thinking like a social scientist. What is the European political space and social space? Social science methods, you get methods training that is ever more important for the job market. And it is also practical skills you can use anywhere. Your policy cycle I already mentioned. And hold on a sec. It gets, and then you have quite a range in deepening social analysis and also getting a global perspective. We have another master in peace and conflict studies, so you also get a more global outlook on doing policy analysis around the world. That is here in the electives in global politics and society. So all the WPMs are electives, which you can freely pick from. So you have quite a wide range to pick. Interesting is this applied policy analysis module. That includes a field trip to Brussels to see EU institutions in practice. And now in the pandemic, when we can't go to Brussels, it's actually the last group of students was in Brussels the day they closed the European Parliament. So in the morning, they still thought they could go in, and in the afternoon they couldn't, and they then had a live Zoom chat with them while they were in Brussels. So we hope we can do that again soon, and in case you join us. But what we've done very successfully is also a lecture series where we invite practitioners who work in the European Parliament, who work for parliamentarians or who work in the German Foreign Office, who work for think tanks, who work for NGOs, who work for companies and do lobbying in Brussels, and so forth, where we invite them to speak to you, to tell what is my job, what is my education, where we're heading. This course is to prepare you for your master project. And that is where everything comes together in a team with other students who've also learned the economic part or have learned the cultural studies part. You develop your own project for full term, and you end up with a conference you organize yourselves where you can also invite the practitioners and reach out. So the master project is your big team project where you're supposed to use everything you've learned and apply it in practice. And that is the strong practical element you have in this program. I can tell you we've had great master projects already. We've had one that was concerned with the representations the EU has around the world and in the member states. How do they work? How do they reach out? What could be improved in them? About LGBTI politics in the EU, what has been done, what is happening there. We've got a great project coming up now on EU climate policy. So you're free to pick there, and it's great fun to do that with students and really apply what you've learned at the end of your program. Since the question came up, we have this applied element in the program, and it's only a 2 years master, so we don't have a special internship on top of that. But of course, this applied policy analysis module and the master project are also geared for you to reach out. Students often do interviews with practitioners. In the applied policy analysis, the students invited 2 commission officials last term who went on the course and gave input and stood up for the interviews that the students had prepared. So we have a lot of linkages, and here behind me in Magdeburg, we have also very strong links to EU policy shapers in Sachsen-Anhalt. It's a small, for German standards, small region in terms of population. The government is just around the corner from the university, and we have a great number of projects with them. So this is maybe to close an advantage again of the smaller cities and the opportunities you get there. Access is quite easy, and we have, as you see here, a great team, a great student body, very active student representatives who are also there to answer questions. And if you want to know more, you got the links for our website and all that. And there's also some films we prepared for now, the digital time we're in, where you can get more information or you can get in touch. And you find there also how to apply in that. I won't go into details there because you have to look into the nitty-gritty once you get started. So I'll end here. This is our team all waving out to you, and it'd be great to get your application and meet you in Magdeburg. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So what we'll do now is, I see a lot of similar questions that were in the Q&A that were asked. So I collected a few of them, and I'd like to now just ask them live. So to have some answers, because I see a lot of similar questions being asked. First, there is a question from Julia, who is asking about a couple of things. So I think I'll ask both of you, when it comes to the thesis module, if students would have an advisor or someone that they can not partner with, but like have supervision with for their thesis.
We should start.
Either one.
I think that the question was for Magdeburg, actually.
All right. Well, you definitely have a supervisor for your master thesis. You can pick where you want to write your master thesis. If you want to write it in economics, the process is slightly different. Their professors usually hand out topics, and you go through a procedure and then get your topic basically assigned from a pool of topics. In social sciences, a great part of writing your master thesis is that you have to develop your own topic, and you also take part in a colloquium. So for a full term, you are in a group of students with a professor or your supervisor, and you get very close advice and supervision in writing your thesis. Yes, definitely, and well, with a whole course basically.
Yeah, this would be the same in Fulda. You can pick your topic for a master thesis. It doesn't matter if you want to focus on European studies or intercultural communication or on globalization, for example, and you can choose your topic and develop a research question and discuss this with the supervisor in this subject field. There will even be two supervisors, maybe one for methodology and one for politics, for example, but there will be two supervisors and they will both grade the master thesis, yes.
Yeah. Maybe one thing that is important to understand, this thesis is, well, I always like to say, if you become a carpenter, right? For your first piece, you might have to do a table, but the second piece is really with all the different things. And in your master thesis, you should show that you are able to find literature, apply it, use it, and do that yourself. And you get a supervisor who assists you. And it is not that you do what somebody tells you, but that you show that you can do things independently. You get assisted in that. And I think this is something that is maybe very also special about German universities, that this ability and learn to do things yourself is a major goal. And that is what you do in your master's thesis. And you get supported in that, definitely. That's what our biggest wish is, that you can do these things all yourself and can instruct the next generation afterwards.
I think that philosophy will take us to our next topic, which I saw a lot of questions about, which is internships. So I will say I did go to a master's program that did not require an internship, but they were welcomed. I mean, even if they're not required, I haven't seen a program where they're discouraged by any means. But even if internships are required, I know that there may be some internship assistance, but this also does rely a lot on kind of initiative of students if they want to do an internship to find contacts and so on. Maybe you can talk about the flexibility of doing an internship. And I know for Fulda, I think it was integrated into the program, if I understood correctly. So someone asked, there were a couple of questions actually about whether they're required, if it's okay to do an internship, and if there's assistance in finding one.
So, for example, in Fulda, we have that compulsory internship, which takes place after the second semester. And that's where we start in the first semester with a weekly seminar to prepare that internship. So we will discuss career opportunities. What can you do with such a degree? You also need to match what you have studied in your bachelor degree and then connect it to your master's degree, and what kind of career goals do you have. So this is a reflection and discussion process to make up your mind, where do you want to go. So in the first semester, we also help with finding an internship by sharing experience of former students, where did they do their internship, and we provide contacts, of course, and we offer something like an application training. So how to write in internship applications, how to get prepared for job interviews, etc. Many people actually do a second internship in the fourth semester, when they say, oh, I had such a good experience with my internship, and now I would like to gain more experience in another field, and they do another voluntary internship, which they can do. They're free to do that. And of course, we try to help as much as we can in that area. There are also actually funding opportunities if you are planning to do an internship abroad. For example, German students, but also international students who come to Fulda, if they want to apply for an internship in Brussels, which is very popular, of course, going to European institutions or into lobbying in NGO, think tanks, whatever. They can apply for Erasmus scholarships, which is not a full scholarship, but it helps to cover extra expenses like an expensive apartment in Brussels, something like that.
Well, I wrote that already in the chat. For the masters, we opted to not include an internship because it's rather short, with four semesters. So there's no compulsory internship, and there's a lot of content input and there's applied element in it. But you're of course welcome to do an internship. We have a compulsory internship in the bachelor's program, and especially our student representatives try to collect experiences. They have a bit more of a free hand in data protection on that, and to connect students. So Germany data protection is a very serious issue. So we can't just collect and say, here's the reports others have written about that company or whatever. So, but our student body is very active there, also in connecting people and giving advice. Germany works very much in German. So it is not necessarily easy to find internship positions that operate fully in English or other languages. You should keep that in mind. And depending on how you, and then like if you want to go into institutions, into political institutions in Brussels or so, you usually have to take at least 2 months internships, else you don't even get in. So that is a big investment. And in my view, it is good. It can be good to get contacts, but it is just as important to take your studies seriously and get a good degree, and then maybe think about doing an internship afterwards or whatever. Or if you want to invest into prolonging your studies for a little longer and do your internship in between. But there's pros and cons. So seek advice and see what is good for you. But Sometimes I get the impression that internships are being considered the only way into getting a job. That's not the case. A good degree and having studied seriously is just as important. So don't miss your courses to do your internship. That's what I want to say. It's very good to do an internship if it fits and that. And the outcome of many internships is you know that you don't want to do that job and you find another one. So it's a great thing, but not to be overestimated. And especially for longer internships, plan in advance. Look for financing if they don't pay you or not. And it's also a good thing to plan for after your studies and build up contacts and that. I forgot something. A good point for people who ask me about student life in Magdeburg. May I add that quickly?
Yeah, sure. That was going to be my next thing. So student life. A student asked about student life in both.
We are planning, we have a big thing coming up. It's called a reality check, and that's our media department that picked our program, and it's a pilot at our university. So it's a new thing. So we will invite about 8 to 10 students to Magdeburg. There's little funding. It won't be enough to take a flight from overseas, I'm afraid. But for lodging in Magdeburg for 2 days and that, and the goal of this project is, and we'll have digital participants. So that is also interesting for people who are far away. So for 2 days in the end of September, we will have, you will get to know practitioners and people in jobs that you can do after studying European studies. So we'll have practitioners in the government in Sachsen-Anhalt, in Brussels, and the program will introduce our program, the masters. You will work in teams and meet practitioners and then present to other students the impressions you had, and to get a full profile, 360 degrees surrounding profile. And there you also get more information about the program and that. We're in the process of preparing that. So in the next weeks, months, the ad will be on our webpage, and I will also tweet about it. So that's coming up, and we'll have an application process. So students that are interested can get a 2 days full experience of that. And we'll have that documented on our webpage as well. So there will be more and more information coming up, and more insights.
Okay, Fulda, do you want to talk a little bit about student life?
Student life in Fulda. Well, actually, the student representatives of our department, they are quite active and very committed to offer extracurricular activities such as movie nights, presentations, speeches. They have a program to invite their own speakers, people they're interested in. They offer gaming nights, parties, whatever. So there's a lot organized by the student body of the department, as well as of the student body of the whole university. So there are quite a few things going on. And in addition, in Fulda, since I mentioned earlier that 10,000 students, and the city of Fulda has about 70,000 inhabitants. So quite a big part of the population are students. So it's a young and very dynamic city, and there's student life going on. And since all the it's not a big place, and it's easy to go out and just meet people everywhere in the city. So it's never boring, and especially international students really appreciate that it's so easy to get in touch with each other and to meet people and make friends. They don't stay alone for a long while. And also in the beginning of the semester, when it starts in October, we offer a quite intense program for introduction and orientation, and we take students to a 2-day trip into the region in order to do some getting to know each other better, ice-breaking games, etc. And that helps a lot, so that people don't feel alone or homesick anymore. very soon after beginning.
Yeah, I think that's a great like way to kind of be, as you said, an icebreaker for students. And I want to highlight something actually that I did mention in the beginning, and that Professor Dr. Heidbreder, you did talk about also during your presentation, and that's that students should really remember not to focus on cities or names and rankings, especially rankings. The ranking system in Germany is not, you can't really compare it to maybe the US or the UK. Rankings are not so important here. But if you must know, Germany does rank third in the world when it comes to top ranked universities, right behind the US and the UK. The only difference is that the top ranked universities in Germany are public and generally tuition free, with some exceptions of specialized programs and so on. But that's not so important here in Germany, so you don't have to focus on that. I did my research fellowship in Berlin. I was accepted to a private university here, the Hertie School of Governance. I still opted to go to the University of Bremen. I just liked the program more because the program was in English. It was more international, and I really liked that. And I still opted to go to Bremen. I did come back to Berlin, but make sure you look at all of your options, students, and so important. I really enjoyed my time in Bremen. And even though I'm back in Berlin, I really valued that. So students, make sure you look at the full scope of these programs. I'm just going to ask one last question because actually we're over time, but I saw a student asked, it comes to eligibility requirements. Again, all of the information is on the profiles we shared in the chat section, so just scroll up. But if you already talked about eligibility requirements, so I don't want to waste time, but maybe if you could briefly mention, a student asked if they have a bachelor's in bioscience, if they would be able to apply.
No, in Fulda that would not be possible because it needs to be a degree in social sciences or related fields like the humanities, but not in the natural sciences or biosciences. Unfortunately not. The accreditation process wouldn't allow that. Yeah,
I figured, yeah.
Yeah, that I wrote to you about, I mean, what we typed, the thing is, for the masters, you need to have these quantitative methods in social sciences. And what is also important, we assist and we give advice, but the selection process, we can't circumvent the official selection process. So you can write to us, you can get advice, but there's a formal process and I can't jump over that. It's not in my power. It doesn't work like that. And this only uni assist program, I don't know if you use that in Fulda as well for international degrees. We are not super happy with it always. It has deficiencies, but we universities depend on it because we don't have the resources to check certificates and your diplomas from all over the world. And therefore it's a very stiff system. So there's the rules, they check it, and that's it. For biosciences, if you have some courses that link to social sciences, if you can show that your statistical whatever knowledge is equivalent, yes, but tricky. Formally, I think it is very problematic.
I think Germany-wide, I mean, I think it's not, so for those of you watching, it's not that, you know, these two program affiliates are like, wow, they're really strict. That's just generally, that's how it works. If you don't have the eligibility requirements, probably don't waste your time applying. You can reach out and ask specifically, but if you don't have the right level of language certificates and so on, you will not be considered.
It's semi-automized, so there's no way around it.
Yeah.
And what is important, the German bachelor master system builds traditionally on a magister, on an old system. So the masters are not, as in the Anglo-Saxon system, also often a completely new program, but it builds on prior knowledge. So you have to have prior qualifications, whereas in the Anglo-Saxon world, it is often like a second bachelor where you can start from scratch. So that is important for the German system. You need to, and that is also important for you. Don't try to get into programs that have nothing to do with what you did before, because it will be hard for you to follow.
Yeah.
And that is important with master programs in Germany. They work in that sense slightly differently than in other countries. And German professors are not so familiar with it. They're very irritated if people come in and do a master's and they know nothing about the field they're studying in. It's not in the German academics' mind. And that will be required by you, but then that's why on the master level you find more very specific things. Like you have a bachelor in law, and then you go into a specific, whatever, environmental law in Southern Europe or whatever master programs.
What you can do if you have doubts whether an application at ICEUS is worth your money and your time, because you have a degree that is not exactly in the field that is required, you can first send an email and ask, well, I have a degree in this and that, and I did this, and look at my transcript. I can usually say whether that meets the requirements or not, and whether it makes sense to send an application to ICEUS or not.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Okay, so we're a little over time, so I think I will wrap it up. We got the gist of the questions here. Again, for those of you asking about eligibility requirements, you got them in the presentation. You have them in the links in the chat, so check them out. And if you need some more information about the details, do a little research, contact us at MyGermanUniversity. Any emails we get at MyGU about the study program specifically, I will be sure to forward them to you if we can't answer them ourselves. But first, I want to thank you so much for your time, for talking about your degree programs with us today, your master's programs. Thank you as well to our moderators, Eileen and Paul, who were answering all of the general questions about other study programs and so on in the Q&A section. Thanks, all of you. And guest speakers, if you have just 5 minutes, I promise I won't go over that. I would love to see you in a feedback round. But otherwise, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, depending on where in the world you are. Bye. See you in the next webinar.